something?
Hello?
Oh, finally, yes. How brilliant. You see, this is providence. It's like expectations, you know, it's like a whole hour. I prepared like twice.
I've had this problem before with my Zoom. I don't know why. It's just one of those things, isn't it?
Exactly.
You can just turn the audio up.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, cool. Well, hello, Anna. Nice to see you in the flesh. Well, kind of semi-flesh.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming and joining today. And I've been so excited about having this conversation with you. Is my audio good? Do you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Don't you worry.
Great. So yes. So thank you so much. And please, just without the whole CV, you know, boring idea, just tell us how you got here, who you are, and what you're up to.
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting life story. I mean, we could be talking for hours for us to go into all the details, but basically, I think I've always been a free thinker. I've always felt an intuitive sense since I was young, although I would have presumed it was more normal than it actually is, or more widespread than it actually is. I've always questioned things and thought critically, especially at school. And when it came to dealing with authority, I think I had a particular issue with just being told how I needed to do. And I thought, even at a young age, that I could make those decisions for myself. So there was a lot of questioning that happened for me in my school years. I'm talking even from a young school age, my first infant school. I don't know what you would call it, infant school, then primary school.
Kindergarten, actually.
Kindergarten, yeah. Let's say
Although
those years for me were nice, pleasant years. I felt, you know, I was living in the kind of Shire of Lord of the Rings in some respects. I had a nice neighborhood, a nice suburban upbringing. But when it came to authority, obviously I respected paternal authority within reason and discipline, because I know that's important. But there was a certain boundary that I felt shouldn't be crossed. Things like asking to go to the toilet, putting your hands up, forming orderly lines, all of this felt wrong to me. And I always felt the need to question them. So then it got to my late teens, and that's when I started exploring things a bit more, like outside of the mainstream narrative, I suppose. And one thing led to another. I was just led through a series of synchronicities, research, personal experiences, just kind of together and drawing together everything that I had questioned into one unified kind of perspective on the world. That obviously since then has led to many more understandings and awakenings later on, but that's what kickstarted the process off. And it's just been a really interesting journey since then of discovery and spiraling into new understandings, and then deciding that, you know, this is the life I want to dedicate myself to, and that I'm not going to be sitting on the fence with this. It's not just a kind of hobby, it's not just a perspective, it's a lifestyle, and I need to walk that path properly and to connect with others and to share the things that I've learned. And I'm fortunate and blessed to have been able to learn so early in my life with others in order to help them to step on this journey, because I feel everyone could benefit from that understanding of our true nature and how we should be living back in communion with our internal world, and just building a reality that's free from all this interference of external belief systems, authority.
Great.
And here we are today.
Here we are. Thank you so much. So what fascinates me about you is you're so eloquent, and you have this broad stroke of knowledge of so many different backgrounds, and when you express yourself, it's so fluent. and it's really beautiful. It's really from the heart, and I think that's very important. And we also, my husband and I, we have been working on this path also for about 30 years. I have the same idea of yours, that, you know, my first year in school, I had to be radical right away with not being able to go to the toilet. It was, for me, it was like, you know, I can't just wait until you are ready. I'm ready, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like already strange. And then, you know, when I was exposed to organized religion as well, I questioned it at 9 years old already. And I read all the books because I thought, if this comes from a book, you know, I'm going to read the book and then I have a few questions. So the not being able to question it and just like, you have to believe because I say so, was very hard for me. So here we are today, and there is such a vast spectrum of things we can talk about. But first I want to introduce your website that is going to come up soon. What's the name of it and what's the purpose?
Yeah, so I plan to, my website should have been live and launched by now, but all these things are subject to delays, and it's been a bit of a frustrating process, but there's always unexpected things. But that I'm planning to have up in the next month. I sent out a newsletter, actually. I don't know if you were subscribed, but obviously not everyone's going to have opened it, but I informed people about the website there. But for those of you who haven't been informed, it will be shiftingtimeline.com, and that's the kind of brand name, or whatever you want to call it, that I'm going under. Feels very relevant to the process I'm working through about this whole idea of shifting realities and moving on to a more beneficial timeline. So that's where the name kind of derives from. There's other ways that I've reached that as well. So be www.shiftingtimeline.com, no S on the timeline. And that's also the name of my Telegram channel as well. And obviously on my Facebook, I'm going under my personal name for now, but you know, it's kind of interchangeable how you prefer to refer to it. So yeah, that I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to take people on more of an in-depth and intricate journey beyond what I post on social media, and that's been my intention for a while. I've got a lot of content stored off platform. Obviously I share things quite freely on social media, but I am serious about taking people to another level and actually synthesizing this material and ensuring that people aren't just taking it on face value and not applying it into their lives, because otherwise we're not going to get to where we need to get to. So I do want to move beyond this expectancy that everyone's going to use the social media information the right way, and to get those that I know are actually really committed onto the website and familiarized with that space as well, so that they can go on a more in-depth journey into my life firstly, but mainly the experiences that I've had that have enabled me to reach these understandings. So
right. So let's get to it. Let's get to some understandings, because I'm sure everybody is dying to hear. So from where I come from, so we can meet, you know, somewhere to have actually a discussion, is that things have been spoon-fed to us by not so, you know, nice people, to not put it in a bad way. And we have been kind of domesticated through schooling to just accept and repeat, just listen and repeat. And critical thinking is kind of very oddly out of the, you know, it's rare, actually, to be honest with you. It is rare today that I meet anybody with critical thinking and with a personal understanding of actually what's going on. So let's back up a little. How do you think we got there? And just briefly, and then I don't want to dwell too much how we got there, but I want to actually focus more where we are going and why critical thinking is so important, and perception. and reality in itself. So let's just back up a little bit for people who do not understand that this is even happening. How did we get here, and where do we want to go, and why freedom and sovereignty is so important, and we are being, taken off.
Yeah, the question about where all this stems from is very big, because you can look at it it depends what vantage point you're looking at it. Like if you're zooming out and looking at the really big picture, you'll know that this agenda that's in the works has been spanning across millennia, even beyond our even comprehension. It stems back into old civilizations that may have been destroyed, maybe the pre-ice age civilizations, but even extending beyond that. But certainly in this cycle that we've been taught about in recent modern history, certainly most of that's a lie, and it's been designed that way to take those progressive steps, or not so progressive, I'd say, towards this kind of communist singularity where we're led to believe that we've progressed and evolved as a society, but in reality we're still governed by this external minority that has control over every aspect of our lives, right down to our thoughts and our emotions. And obviously all the systems and empires that we've seen that have been ruling man for this cycle of history, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Greeks, they've all played their hand in where we are today, and it's been a progressive journey. I'm not saying there wasn't anything positive in those time eras. There's a lot of amazing things we can learn from history and cultures, but it's about understanding that the main core timeline that we've been going down is not conducive of human freedom and individuality, but more about turning everyone into carbon copies of each other without, like you said, the frame of awareness for critical thinking. And that means that we're basically forfeiting our humanity in favor of mechanical, conditioned behaviors that only serve a special interest and don't nurture our own growth. So I think the sooner people realize that and see it playing out in the world, and understanding that these events we're experiencing aren't by mistake, and all these false flag events that we see, they're all playing and feeding into this one core agenda that's reaching its kind of crux now. It's hit that choice point now where it's important people make the decision about which direction they want to pursue, and whether they would prefer that someone else govern their lives, or do they want to find the courage to step back into their own internal authority, in which case there's an alternative way for these people. We don't know how that's going to unfold yet, but we know that already. For example, this conversation is testament to the fact that people with that more expanded consciousness, they are coming together more synchronistically and birthing this new vibrational landscape.
Wonderful. Yeah, and it brings me just a little pause there, because there's so much to talk about, but it brings me to the point where I would say some people that think they're conscious, and they mean well and they want to be conscious, but they haven't yet understood the intricacies of this landscape. And they might be thinking, it's okay, I understand these people have set up such a system. I know it's kind of evil, but I can actually have a little dance with them, and I can kind of, kind of flirt with the enemy, and what do you think about that? Because I think it's a very dangerous thing, and I personally refuse to associate with anybody that is working for that agenda. And I think it's very detrimental, because association is so important for me. What do you think about that? Do you think we can actually kind of be friends? Or
at the moment, no, it depends really when we say who we're affiliating with, really, because there's different levels of serving the agenda. Certainly since last year, the majority of people now that are subscribing to any kind of this false narrative are now servants of the agenda, because they're preventing the ability to even live in the conditions prior to 2020 where we had at least some semblance of freedom left. So I think if you asked me that question prior to last year, I would have given you a slightly different answer and said, all right, well, we can work within the system, we can try and help people from the lens of what's already been built for us. But to be honest, I never really subscribed to that anyway. I would have just said that to other people that might not feel the calling to step outside the paradigm. But now I would say, for anyone who knows the extent of what's going on, at least on the level of the gene therapies and you know, the establishment's plans for this kind of AI society, I think we have to take a pretty black and white stance with this, and there's no middle ground anymore, because the whole world as we knew it is crumbling. Anyone with, you know, a conscious mind, critical mind, and a good intuition will be able to see things changing in that way very rapidly. So we can use that as an opportunity now to rebuild from the ashes of that dying world. But we can't expect that it's going to rejuvenate itself, or that these people that are running the show are just going to transform and change just because we're being nice to them or because we're serving them. They don't care. They're not interested. They've got one agenda only, and that is to serve themselves. So for those people that are still sitting on the fence and being a bit naive about all this, they will be in for a wake-up call. And I've seen people that have tried to play the middle ground, and that in the end they're forced to make a decision. And those that choose to you know, on the Matrix films, when, if you've seen the Matrix films, when that guy decides he wants to rejoin the Matrix because
absolutely,
it's like that. But the thing is, if you do that, you're basically giving away your soul. You're basically resigning to the fact that you can't step into power, and
you will be governed, and that you will be governed, and you will be serving the agenda. Yeah, exactly my feeling. And it's quite actually difficult in a sense to see and witness beautiful people trying to do the right thing, but because of some dissonance, cognitive dissonance, really, they can't accept that it is that bad, you know, and that it is that that controlled. Even if they see the results in the systems and the symptoms of people, they still are holding naively to that idea that, you know, it's not that bad. But anyway, so from there, I was thinking the future, how, I wanted to very briefly have your take about the cryptocurrency, because in my understanding, that is a cashless society plan that they are just rolling out. Do you agree to that? Because here, where I am, it's like crypto invasion, okay, into because it's very trendy. It's like the forefront. It has been open the whole time, and it's the conscious community here. And so crypto, I call it the crypto invasion here. What do you think about that issue?
Yeah, so I went public about my opinions on that not so long ago, a month or so ago. If anyone, you know, was interested, they can go back and read my analysis on that. But my stance on it, and I know everyone's in different circumstances. For example, if you've got kids that you need to look after, or if you're talking survival needs here, and you don't feel there's any other way of earning an income, and you want to get in and out quickly, then, you know, there's something to be said for that. Again, I try not to take too much of a nuanced view with these things. I'm seeing it as, unfortunately, a way to herd the awake and the more conscious community into this trap by using them as, like you said, where you are, these trendy kind of, you know, conscious communities, ironically, are the ones that are being used to peddle this crypto narrative forward, which should be obvious to anyone who understands this agenda that it is one step closer to cashless society. And people use the excuse of, well, we're already living in a cashless society, you know, we're all like enslaved to the fractional reserve banking system and the fiat currency, so why is this any different? At least this way we're free from the central banks, rah rah rah. But really you have to zoom out and just look at it for what it is, which is it's a completely cashless society. So you can't, it's not backed by anything. Even though cash isn't backed by anything, at least it's a tangible thing that can be exchanged. Okay, it's not backed by gold anymore like it used to be, because, you know, the whole system screwed from the start. There wasn't, you know, the gold was stolen, locked in the Vatican and all the vaults, and we were given this paper money to exchange with, which turned into credit, which is moving towards crypto. And it's a great way to sell it to people as being this anti-establishment savior system, but no one really knows.
Controlling both sides, right? It's the Hegelian thing. It's like we control both sides. We give you the crisis, the solution, and then we
feels a bit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not here to discourage anyone from making whatever decision they want. I'm a big proponent of using your free will, and I know this is a triggering topic for many people, and the worst thing is to face the projections from people who blame you for changing their mind, but they have to try and make their own decision and tune into their discernment with this. For me personally, like my first instinct for something just fell off. I know there's other people in the community, some with a big following, who might not be taking that same stance, and that's fair enough. They can explore that themselves, but I think it's inevitably going to get to a point, unless we turn things around, where these cryptos are going to become outlawed and there's going to be a central coin, a central banking digital currency already in China. I mean, I spoke out about this about a month ago, and ever since then you've had Elon Musk, who's withdrawn his participation in Bitcoin because of the whole environmental thing, saying, oh, which is part of the agenda as well, obviously.
Sure,
and then
quite handy for him.
Yeah, it's convenient, isn't it? And I warned against Elon Musk, transhumanist mogul, who got very sinister intentions, playing off like as this he's this Pied Piper of character who's drawing in all of these kind of edgy,
trendy youngsters. Yeah,
falling for it hook, line and sinker. I'm failing to see that this guy wants to implant chips into our brain and controls the satellite system orbiting Earth, connecting to the networks and the electromagnetic field. So cryptocurrencies, the very nature of it feels off, because it's run by the grid. It's dependent on the electrical grid, and if there was any server outages or disruption, which there could be, another false flag to take down the grid, everyone's wealth would evaporate into thin air, and that would be a great way to take people's wealth away from them. And then you could come along with the solution, we're saying, you know, we need more security regulation so that these things don't happen again. We also need to make sure that we've got an environmentally friendly crypto. So they'll come along with like an XRP or Ripple, whatever that banker's coin is, and they'll get all the like economists and all the people who love the system the way that it is now, the financial heads and all of that. They'll be jumping on it. But they're the ones that aren't. The thing is, you've got the financial sector, the people who don't understand what's going on. They're kind of resisting it for different reasons than maybe me and you are. They're resisting it because they feel it's not protected or backed up. But as soon as these bankers come along and offer this regulated system, that could be the point where everyone starts to transition over. And then all I would say is, for all of you, the conscious people that helped to bring in that system, it's worth asking whether it was worth it just to line your pockets and to get ahead of the curve. And for me, the whole if you can't beat them, join them mentality, it doesn't wash very well with me. So that's my stance. But just to round that off, as I said, there's things that I don't mind debating about, but I find the crypto topic very triggering for a lot of people. And I'm not here to pander to their
of course.
They need to work that stuff out themselves, but I'm not here to provide them those answers.
Sure. Yeah, it is triggering, you know. I didn't really fall out kind of with the person I was working for some time because of it, because it's it's like the new religion, you know, environmentalism, where, you know, if you have bought into that idea and you live it by it, and it doesn't mean, for me, for example, especially here, it's like everybody is green, you know, it's almost like I see just green people everywhere.
Yeah, where are you, by the way? I know we haven't had the chance to
Yeah,
discuss.
in Tulum. It's in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico.
Right, okay.
So it's
There's a big transition occurring in Mexico. A lot of the people from the States are moving there because
yes,
it
absolutely. So
then it comes
there has been in the past 10 months a huge influx of people actually coming because it's open, you know, already it's a small town, it's very trendy, it was known for a long time, it's the Caribbean Sea, it's a fabulous place, it's very trendy, so it has everything. So the last 6 months the crypto invasion came here. I mean it's almost like New York City has, you know, one neighborhood has moved here. And it's quite interesting because we studied for so many years, you know, geopolitics, my husband and I, and we, by, you know, by providence, we have maybe a deeper understanding for also doing research. Everything is there for you to look at and have your own mind made by yourself, not, you know, CNN, but, or BBC. But so here is very, very powerful. So the crypto invasion, I call, and the New York, you know, neighborhood is here now, and everything is about money. And it's very interesting because there's an ushering into like, you have to do this because it's sustainable. And then the environmentalists are heavy here because it's a beautiful place. They are these beautiful cenotes. We just like, you know, at one point in the history of this area, there was a meteor shower that made huge holes that are filled with crystal clear water. So it's a beautiful thing. So the thing now here, and of course, part of the agenda, the next thing is water. So there, it's like a big thing. I met somebody that represents, and it's a facilitator for the Agenda 21, the UN agenda that we're not going to go into it. Everybody can look into it and try to understand that it, yeah, that is the sustainable development. So they go everywhere. They are in touch with the indigenous people here as a savior, because, you know, development is going to be wrong if we do it like we did before. I agree and disagree at the same time, because the indigenous people here are very strong and they have resisted the Hispanic invasion forever. So this is a very, very important place, and we can talk about it eventually if you're interested in how things are going to play out here. But just to say that environmental is the carrot. So I see environmental and crypto, environmental and money. I mean, money always the first, of course, and they will finance, for example, our Sami tribe, which is a media studio that we are building here. About 6 months ago, I had somebody approaching me, also kind of trying to connect me with the UN, that they would fund me. So any sustainable, if you align with them, it's funded immediately. It's not a problem. If you have a good idea, and our cinetribe.club is a great idea because we want to produce media that is conscious, but not conscious of the environment and the carrots they put before us, but conscious about how things really work, actually reality. So they tried, it didn't work. And then, you know, of course, I'm unfunded, like most of us. So if anybody wants to help, please, you know, let's get together. And so now into the future. So we have cleared.
Just to say something quickly.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, media is super important,
I think,
right?
I'd like to say firstly that I think what you're doing is great, and I understand that it's going to be met with difficulties, because people still haven't reached that level yet where they're willing to put their money where their mouth is and invest in proper individuals who are setting up these initiatives. And what you're doing is definitely the right thing that we need to be working on. Annoyingly, right at this present moment, with everything going on, people's attention is so fragmented and diverted, that they're not realizing that these solutions, we need to be working towards them. And eventually people like yourself, your husband, and anyone else who are actually taking the tangible steps are going to be people that we need, and we need to invest in, whether that's financially or through trading skills and services. We don't know at this point because everything's unfolding. But I think the fact that you're passionate about what you do, you have the experience and the expertise, and I think if we carry these skills forward, even if we have to sacrifice some investment from these kind of interfering bodies that just want to infiltrate and turn us, well, help make us join the agenda using the smokescreen of progressivism and environmental sustainability and all this UN human rights nonsense. But yeah, I would just say in terms of the future regarding projects like that, I think everyone's got to find their calling in this world and actually take action on it and offer something, bring something to the table. For me, it wouldn't be the same as what you do, but I'm confident that I have some very valuable skills that people would be willing to trade or pay me money for. And eventually people are going to have to start being serious about it, because if you can't trust your fellow peers with this, then all you're going to do is join another system like the crypto boom, and just because you want to make a quick buck, but in the process all you're doing is sacrificing your spiritual development. You're doing things the easy and convenient way, but you're not doing it the right way, which is the more, it's going to be the more difficult in the short term for us, but at least we know that our integrity is intact and that we're actually building a real alternative world here. So
yes,
that's just
definitely.
what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because that's exactly how it feels. It's like there is so much. It's apparent, it's apparent impediments in a sense, but how I feel is that I'm building an entourage that is extremely powerful, that is efficient, and that they have a fuller understanding of the big picture. And so I think that although, there's this stumbling rocks, it's going to be better in the end, because then we have learned so much, and it's through experiencing itself. You can't just, we can always share things and say, but you can't, like they say, you can take the horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. So we can facilitate, and what we are doing in media, it's really conscious media, metaphysical films, really Hollywood, same quality, but that actually enhances and appreciates humanity instead of dehumanizing everybody and making them feel guilty about even having children or being alive. I mean, so I'm not aligning with anybody. I'm not doing any alignment with anybody that will even try to divert me, because I'm not interested in having a conversation with them, especially when I know for sure they are hooked, you know what I mean, and determined. So how do you feel about, how do we deal with them? We can be kind. That's what I do. I'm kind. I have love. I appreciate their maybe misunderstanding. I try to keep at peace with them, but staying focused in what we are doing and the mission in itself. So the future then, how do we shift timeline, as you said, and how do you feel about all that? Because that's your purpose actually, and your work. And
yeah, the way I see it unfolding, there's going to be stages like we just spoke about that we're going to have to go through to reach this not even an ideal. We're never going to get to the ideal, because this is an ever expanding journey, and we're here living this 3D experience because we need to learn lessons and to nurture our souls. But in the short term, at least, we're in this battle between light and dark, not the kind of false light and the dark, the real light and dark that's reaching this kind of head now. And there's work to be done in raising awareness to bring as many people onto the right side as possible. And at the moment, I think that's important. for the word to just get spread. That doesn't mean we have to compromise our boundaries and stand on the mountaintops and shout it to the world, because we know that we're not going to reach everyone, but we certainly can plant the seeds and speak our truth and have the belief within ourselves that it's going to reach the right people. And the more people that we can bring into our networks as individuals first, then these networks, I feel, they're going to start to kind of join together, whether it's in a physical, in the physical space or on the metaphysical, like quantum space, remains to be seen. Ideally,
kind of
we want
hero, no?
Yeah.
Like the people don't consider that there are more things happening in the ethereal. I feel that a lot has advanced there, where, for example, so many of my close friends, before that happened before, and it's even scientifically proving that you can, you know, you can read people's mind in a sense, but you can feel what when they're thinking of you and things like that. So I think that as you become more conscious, those things are going to develop within us, right? More metaphysical kind of powers in a sense.
They already are, yeah, they are. Like, we're all connected on a metaphysical level, but in order to tap into the right channel, we need to be operating on the same frequency. So those of us that are functioning on a relative similar frequency, then regardless of whether we're in the same space physically, we're still going to be transmitting our consciousness and energy between each other, and we'll be positioned in various points across the globe, and we'll be lighting. I think people are supposed to be in different places for now, because we're supposed to bring our, we're supposed to harness our light onto the planet at this time in different areas and form this kind of like help to enhance the collective consciousness. But I think as things progress, these different points on this grid, they're going to have to start to kind of come together, because the more they come together, the more powerful they are. And then we might see the formation of communities and networks and all initiatives like we spoke about with yours and other people's great work they're doing, setting up like it's hard to say how it will look.
Like the eco villages, I think.
Some of these eco villages are more of an escapist
idea,
initiative.
Yeah. Well, the one we are working on here with the Vedic Times is really focused on facilitating education and and making a place like a haven for artists and educators to just have people coming through, and some people can live there or they can stay for a moment and just like, enhance creativity and spirituality as people start traveling again. So it's not like the eco village per se, like they plan. So, it's like kind of Mickey Mouse for me in a sense, but no, it's more of like a haven for creatives and for true spiritualists to come together, to enhance each other, to share things, and eat well and rest well, and then they can go back into their lives again or stay there for some time. So that's the main idea with what we are doing here.
That's really good. I think that's going to be important. Again, I mean, ideally, we're going to reach a point where we don't have to participate in this structure of society at all, and we can actually form these kind of eco communities, but they won't be based on just a load of people running away from their insecurities and their shadow, but it'll be people who have done the proper self-work and found that integration, and they're coming together naturally, organically through vibrational resonance, and each of them can bring something different to the table, and together we can co-create and synthesize and build an alternative, like, timeline reality. But that sometimes people can call you idealistic for looking that far ahead, but it's important that we hold that belief in our minds that a better alternative is possible, and then bring that feeling back into the present moment and do what we need to do to get there. And as I said before, the first step is to ensure that we're helping as many people join the cause as possible, but they have to be willing to walk that path themselves. And we can't force it. Some souls are young and they're not ready to ascend to the next level. I'm not talking ascension in the Buddhist sense. I'm talking embodiment, bringing these, you know, integrating this consciousness into this reality and actually taking charge of our destiny while we're here. So we can bring the two things together. It's not about running away or achieving enlightenment, but certainly it's about activating our
Absolutely
free will and individual potential. And not everyone's going to do that. It's unrealistic. I think Gurdjieff, you know, G.I. Gurdjieff, the Russian philosopher or guru, whatever, he said, a collective awakening, you know, that could cause more problems than it would actually resolve, because people aren't ready. No, not everyone's ready to make that transition. And if everyone was forced into doing that, then it's gonna cause problems with unresolved conflicts, projecting, and
sure.
It's unrealistic to expect that 8 billion people are just gonna suddenly just have this like eureka moment and everything. There might be some disclosure later on, but I don't think it will be as black and white as suddenly everything.
Yeah, two things I want to say about this that I think is relevant is when people say, you know, it's unrealistic and you like, you know, to get your heads off the clouds. Well, the Agenda 21 is exactly, they're planning centuries ahead. It's not even funny, you know. It's like when I use the Agenda 2030, which they are talking about here a lot. They have a goal, and this person that I met, she said something really interesting. I mean, it's these terms that they use to like wrap you around and like make you lose yourself. It was something like retrospective projection, some weird stuff, but where they actually say we are at 2030 and we look back. You see what I mean? So, and then we go back and we see what, you know, what are the steps we have to take to get there. So it's very intense, the 2030 thing. And as you know, cashless society, everybody, and then after that, it would be everybody cramped into cities, you know, with no money and just like tokens. They talking about you can dance for tokens here, okay? Which kind of blew my mind, because I'm thinking, what does that mean? You dance for tokens. So you get like in like we did in school. They use also you get a gold star. It's like it's so. Oh, I don't get upset as much, but it was kind of insulting. Like, are we gonna give you like a gold star now? You know what I mean? It's like, right. Thank you. I feel much better.
Yeah.
It's a top down.
I agree.
I feel much better now that you're giving me your approval and your gold star.
That's priming people for this whole social credit system, which is already in China, which is the idea that we need to work for rewards. We need to justify our right to exist by earning these like incentives. It's all a trap to get people to consent, but in reality, these it's all part of the same goal to get us to justify our existence, and it's patronizing, like you said, to be told that it's no different to being at school and being rewarded for good behavior. It's just another form of reinforcement and conditioning. And people are so naive that they just always see the best intention.
So just to wrap that up, is like, okay, so we are actually projecting in a good way, in a proper sense, to the outcome we want to see, you know, in freedom and in knowledge. And so we can do 2030, 2040, you know, and live and do the best we can, even better than the best we can, do all we can to have the field of existence in a better situation than it was before. So I think that all we can do is that, and aware and awake, and then share the knowledge. And that's why these places will actually exist, where we are not resisting, because another idea is like, oh, if I'm, you know, now I'm going to resist them. I have no resistance whatsoever, no resistance. What I have is focus in what I want to see. So is that how you think it's going to play, or could you add or correct me if you think?
Yeah, I agree when you say resistance is it's a bad energy. Like, we have to try and move from the energy of resisting and fighting to the energy of creating something new. But I think, depending on where you're at on this journey and what time you wake up, there is going to be a lot of emotional spillage and a lot of negative projections, because people are understandably very angry. And that, I think we can all relate to a point in our lives where we had to work through that process. But for those of us that have managed our internal space maybe a bit more for a bit longer, and we've attended to those unresolved conflicts in the shadow, it's not a good idea for us to be overly investing our emotions into fighting, and because we're only feeding the beast with more energy, and that's how it thrives, is off our energy. It siphons our resources to feed its own power, because it's not able to generate it on its own accord. So as much as I believe it's important to carry on raising awareness, we have to be doing that from a place of emotional balance. And that means, I'm not saying like we need to be detached and neutral about it. We need to say what we think and what we feel, obviously. We need to be authentic, but there's a cut-off point where we're starting to actually feed the very thing we're fighting against. So for those that are raising awareness constantly, fighting the political battle, the governments, the system, the establishment, we have to remember to give that time for surrender and to go within ourselves and make sure that we're actually synthesizing what we've learned, and that we're applying it in our own lives, so that we don't become a very product of the thing we're trying to fight. Because then one system will come along to replace another system, and we just stay stuck on this hamster wheel. And that's what we've experienced throughout society. It's just one empire after another empire after another. So it's got to that point now where we need to be investing a balance of energy between our managing our internal state and taking appropriate action to raise awareness. But whenever you feel that you're falling a bit out of balance or you're draining your energy, then that's the time that you need to step back and think, okay, there's something within me now that I need to attend to, and a lesson that I need to learn. And that's going to be really important to get to the point that we're talking about, is going within and doing the real individual personal work. So
yes, I totally agree.
Very, very important in my mind.
Yeah, and this is the main reason we are creating this haven. There's a space where we can, there's, just sharing of everything, sharing of knowledge and questions and understanding and tools and processes that we have been through, that we have tested and experienced, where we can actually usher each other, in a positive manner, non-judgmental, and work, because I believe that we have this incredible capacity as a human body in human consciousness to achieve whatever we want. But we have been with so much, we have lived through interference, and through education, we have been cut out of our powers, actually. So it's like reconnecting, understanding, and experiencing these things. Our passion is cinema. So we're going to be exploring these things through movies. I also like to do documentaries. But with you, you have this body of knowledge that you will be sharing as well. So how will you share, and what is your proposition?
My aim is to work people through a process of evolution of consciousness, starting from the ground up. So starting from the very real world issues that we all experience, our addictions, our attachments, relationships, and coupled with an increased understanding of the agenda and the establishment and what's going on. I think first and foremost, we need to understand what we're dealing with here and look at reality from a different lens. Once we have that understanding, we can go through this whole dark night of the soul experience, where we have to really go within and confront those aspects of ourselves that may have been feeding this system, because we all play a part in the collective consciousness. So, and from that point onwards, you start to realize things that you need to attend to. You may be still enslaved to your addictions. You may be still associating with people that don't inspire your growth or don't inspire a positive energy, and they're bringing you down. And you need to make sure you're cleaning up your energetic field and your immediate sphere of influence, because otherwise you're going to become a product of the people that you associate with the most. You need to make sure you're living in the right environment. And once we've attended to those real grounded elements, we can start to work on a more mental, psychological level. We can then work on the emotional level. And that's my idea, is to help people to work through that process from the ground up until we reach this real metaphysical understanding of our true nature and understand the evolution of consciousness from the biggest vantage point, which is that we're all here to learn and evolve, and that the creator has imbued us with the free will to make our own mistakes and to allow evil to run amok in order to learn about itself and to become whole again with this increased consciousness of itself. And it's unfortunate that we have to deal with suffering in the world, and I don't feel suffering has to be permanent, but it's inevitable until humanity and the collective has learned its lessons. So that's it really, and I can go into those components in detail, and that's what I'm planning to do. So.
All right. Well, I'm excited about that. So I wanted to
I've got a lot of stuff in the works. I've got a lot of stuff ready to give to
okay. You're exploring a lot. So I think one thing that is interesting that you said that I love, that, you know, from the ground up, meaning first we have to understand, because our contribution as well, you know, where we put our energy or we put our money, everything is energy. So it's like, you know, you can't say, oh, you know, I don't like communism, but you keep buying things from China. Or, you know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hypocrites. Like, I'm a vegetarian, but, you know, I buy leather boots. So it's this dissonance as well of a lack of coherence with your values and your understanding. So I think aligning that first in the material level, where you say, okay, I got to kind of walk my talk now and be serious about this. And then the evolution of consciousness is already, it's not, for me, it's not really an evolution. I think we have the consciousness, which is already there, but we are just not tapping into it. Exactly. We're not tapping into it. So you go, okay, because then with the body machine, you start to see and smell and feel with the senses the good stuff and the right things and where to go, and the people will come to you. But you can't do that without having a conscious decision of cutting out the other stuff, right? I think that's very important, to have this established conscious position where you say, okay, no more of this, because then you make space for the other stuff. And another thing I think it's brilliant on your proposition is the idea that you will enhance your consciousness as you go, also going through the darkness to saying, okay, I actually contributed. It was, you know, I was wrong or right or whatever, however you want to feel it. And then emotionally, heal emotionally as well. I think that's very important. A lot of people they walk around bleeding emotionally their whole lives. And so healing emotionally, getting the whole picture, healing emotionally, and saying, you know, I'm only human. I have done wrong. I haven't seen it. It's okay. I could do it as well. Another thing I think is very important is non-judgmental, meaning, okay, if you were in that exact situation, would you actually do it differently? Most people, you know, cornered by a gun or some violence, they probably react the same way. So becoming non-judgmental and becoming a whole person, I say, okay, I can actually use now my free will consciously with my critical thinking and moving forward into a higher consciousness. Is this more or less how you picture it? And we're going to like facilitate to everybody to go there? Fabulous.
Yeah. All right. I couldn't have said that better myself, Anna.
Well, that's wonderful.
It. That's bang on.
Well, I am here with you and for you to do all that's necessary to facilitate whatever you need. I think through media, it's going to be fabulous to just hammer out one thing after the other that's why we want to create a Cine Tribe community, not only for the filmmakers, but also for the cinephile and people that want to consume media and things that will help them achieve that same, status in a way of being able to actually walk through life in bliss and understanding, because we've been cut out from that from very early on, right?
Now, yeah.
Okay. And so I'm saying we are here to facilitate, assist you as best as we can to increase your potency on the planet, and we can work together in these things to facilitate and bring all these wonderful things with movies, documentaries, media, talks again, to facilitate for everybody to actually come together and get involved actively in raising consciousness actively, and we can do this together.
We need these real, like, visceral platforms that people can relate to in the media world, especially because that's the world that we're in right now. We're in the technological age, and people need to have that stimulation and visceral experience through media. And I like the way that you're using that to for a positive means without any external interference, in order to help facilitate people's creative abilities.
Yes.
And to help them unlock what their potential is, because we've all got a unique purpose, and if you can provide that platform to help people tap into their own creative potential, then that will take them down their own pathway, and then they can start building their own initiative. Maybe some people will take a more predominant role. I think you're quite a wise individual. You've had a lot of experience, so I think you can manage, this initiative and carry multiple people along and help them. And other people, they might feel less inclined to work in that way. But for those of us that have that experience and can offer something back and give a platform to people to subscribe to, I think that's really great.
Yeah, this is why, the Cine Tribe idea is a haven for the creatives and education for, people coming through, but also for the cinephile and the people that want to watch. So we want to create a community where if you want a good stuff, you know where to go. You go to Cine Tribe, and people went to Netflix. You know what I mean?
Like a hub, a centralized hub, but not a controlled.
Exactly. Non-affiliated.
Yeah, that's the thing though with these things like Netflix and all these centralized things. They're the way they're presented. I can see why people attach and feel the appeal, because it's more convenient, it's cheaper. Like, you have better quality experience, visual experience, audio experience, and that's the way they rope people in. But if you could create something like that, it's hard to compete with the big tech Silicon Valley companies. But if we create that same experience.
Hollywood was moved into the Silicon Valley actually, 15 years ago. So people were just like, oh, now Hollywood is canceled or whatever they say. Well, it was canceled before you even thought of it. It was already moved.
It was designed to be canceled.
It was designed it's like crypto, oh, now cash is canceled. Really? They've been doing it for 15 years, and now they're just letting you know.
This is the thing people need to understand. Like, these industries, they're not being infiltrated. They were designed with that intention in mind. Netflix wasn't just some idea that someone thought up in their garage. Like they say, oh, Jeff Bezos started trading in his garage. No, he didn't. He was groomed and given that position. He did not create Amazon. Elon Musk isn't the genius behind these technologies. He's just the front man. So that's why they have such good platforms. That's why Amazon has the best technology, Netflix has the best viewing experience, because they have the Silicon Valley minds all coming together, or maybe they're getting their information from something else. I mean, that's another conversation, but certainly the tech that they're using, they've had way beyond we
absolutely. And that's I think is an interesting point to make again, and stress that these are not just coincidences. It's not just like by chance, you know, now everybody's hooked to Netflix and not going to the movies anymore. And they can actually close cinemas, which I've been saying for 15 years. And even my husband didn't agree at the time. And I say, the agenda is to kill the cinema experience. They don't want the people to get together. They don't want you to go and have fun. So let's just have fun. We can get together. We will have fun. We will make great movies. It's not a competition. We're going to have our own platform eventually where we feel want good stuff. And I tell you what, because we are not forcing anybody, when you get something really good and it's tasty like a mango, and like here you have mangoes and papayas everywhere, it's like, why would you go and buy a candy? You know what I mean? It's like, forget it. I will get a mango. It's same price. I will get the mango. So what we are doing here is like just getting the good stuff. And people, they have a mango, they say to 100 people, you've got to have a mango. So we don't need the marketing, the pushing, the forcing, the shoving, none of that. But we need to get the people on the platform. We need to get the people more aware, raising consciousness. That's why the work you are doing, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we get that. And then as we unplug literally from the system, we have something to actually have fun and watch and get together. We can project our own movies. That's what we are doing here. We only watch movies that matter. And once a week, we have the movie nights, and we get together and we watch a great movie that is beautiful. For example, last night we watched, and I recommend if you didn't, because you're gonna love this one, it's called Youth Without Youth, Francis Ford Coppola, a movie that hardly went into cinemas over 10 years ago. And my God, you know, the most incredible film director alive today, Godfather, and you know his work, totally forgotten, like Orson Welles, like Charlie Chaplin was thrown out of America as a I mean, anyway, we could go on and on and on, but media for me is the nervous system of the planet, and whatever you feed into, it's going to come the other side. So facilitate with the Vedic times, the eco village and the education. And I'm sure you're going to be coming around, giving some seminars, facilitating however you want. And then we bathe in the Caribbean Sea, and, you know, there you go, papayas and mangoes and pineapples and runs on the beach. And
it doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't.
No.
We all need to just follow our calling and give back what we're passionate about in service to others. Make sure we're taking care of our internal space, and let reality take care of the rest. Synchronicity, connection, like we don't need to force anything. We need to make sure, you know, when you're on the right timeline, you can feel it. Your intuition, your body will tell you. And there's going to be challenges along the way because we're facing all these bombardments. But ultimately, as long as we just have the right conviction, the right belief and determination, and we're doing it with coming from a heart-centered place and with the right intention, then we have to trust that even as one individual, that's going to set this kind of chain of events in motion, this ripple effect, and other people will be doing that, and we can then come together, and then I can come over and visit you, someone can come over and visit me, we can hold our workshops, run our movies, we can grow our food, we can do whatever it is, and the combination of those things ultimately is
what's important,
allow the new society to thrive. But there is no
holistic approach, right? Instead of sustainable approach, I call it a holistic approach. You know, body, mind, soul, emotional. You know, this is why my podcast is called Reclaim Your Mind, because I feel that we even haven't got your minds. Most people, their minds have been hijacked, you know, by propaganda for forever. And so first you get like, okay, this mind is mine. It's my mind. I make up my mind. and then, you know, then we move on.
Rest follows, yeah. We are the creators of our reality. Everything that comes stems from a thought, everything. Even though we live in a physical world, like, you know, everything that you see that's been built around you, the houses, the architecture, it's all come from a product of someone's mind. So if we transmute that mental energy to create something that's more in alignment with nature and the ecosystem, then we'll start to move beyond this density, this physical density where everything feels so separate and disconnected, and the animals and the trees, they're not a part of us. Like, people need to understand the communion of all things, and to do that we need to create with our minds the reality that we would like to live in, and act. We have to bring that belief into the present and act as if we're already living that reality that we wish to create. That's the whole process of embodiment. We can't live in fantasy and idealism. We have to make sure that we're already being the example we wish to set, and then the reality will conspire to give us more of that, and then things will just move in that direction. Before you know it, you're transforming your external experience, but it's not going to be an overnight process, and we have to acknowledge that the shadow and the darkness is a part of this process for now, and until we've been able to synthesize it, then we're not going to be able to transcend it. You have to bring these two elements together. So
it's acceptance and to transcend, yes. And the connection, and I think the connection, and then, you know, connection with the divine, which is actually yoga, sorry, that has been hijacked by the Western society, and they just do stretching or other yogas. Like, I was in London not too long ago, last time I was living there. They had like baby yoga, horse yoga, dog yoga, and I'm thinking, it's outrageous, right? I mean, here they have everything, acro yoga and everything, and they are not doing yoga at all, because yoga is about connecting with the divine, and I think that connection is very important to facilitate also, you know, tuning down a little bit the mind. When you have the mind, we tune down the mind a little bit. We make sure that we know what it's for, you know, in the whole body makeup, and then connection with each other, connection with the nature, connection with the divine, and then we can operate like in bliss. And it's not that complicated, right? As you said.
Not for those who choose to walk that path. You know, like, I think this whole timeline split, whatever you prefer to refer it as, is already happening. It's not something we need to move. It is something we're moving towards as well, but the process is underway already. If you're someone who was quietly expecting something big to happen, no one could have expected the pace that things have unfolded in the last year. But certainly those of us with the awareness of the way the agenda operates, we would have known at some point that this was all going to happen in some form or another. So
it wasn't a surprise. It was just kind of rushed for me. It wasn't a surprise. It was just kind of like, already.
So those of us who have prepared already, we will have already felt this split happening. We would have felt like we don't want to re-participate in a broken society. I'm not interested in going to the pub. I'm not interested in watching football, or all these things that people depend on for their sense of kind of enjoyment. And if people want to do that, I'm not going to deny them that. To me, it's not what I thrive on, and it's not what stimulates it doesn't stimulate my curiosity or excitement, because I know that all these industries are controlled, and that I don't, for me now, it's reached a point where it's not about changing things from the inside out. It's about stepping out and bringing people with us, and actually just completely discarding things that don't work anymore. We can't rely on these corporations and these institutions to change their ways, because same with the politicians. We could go on and on, but you get my point. It needs to be an individual thing.
They wouldn't know how. We would have to teach them how, actually. And
no gurus, none of this either. It's not about chasing like successful people and idolizing celebrities and gurus, even in the alternative industries, because power just ends up corrupting. I've seen so many people who've become successful who forget their values and that they compromise their integrity, and then they just become the very thing that they claim to be against. So the change is going to happen on a more organic individual level, in that your common everyday folk, you know, not the like ego people, spiritual ego and all this crap.
Ego driven, yeah, that's out. All right, well, we declare ego trips are out.
I'm working on it.
Cool. Well, I'm so excited and I'm so grateful, and I thank you so much for sharing in this time with us, and there's so much more coming. So tell us briefly where to find you, what's your next step, and you know, if you need anything, just let everybody know.
Yeah, I'll be active on my Telegram. That's going to be more of a kind of news platform to share like important news that I feel people could benefit from. My Facebook will continue to be a platform. That's Sami Richard, for my more in-depth musings and insights and transmissions. A lot of that comes from a real channeled place. Like, I'm not, like, everything I share, when I share it, has come to me in that moment because I feel it needs to be shared, and I feel
through kind of meditation and connection.
Yeah, just pure like stillness of mind and determination and just trust. Yes, exactly. So those things aren't just me sitting down on my computer and just deciding I want to share something. They're coming from a higher place, authentic place. Okay. So there's that, and then ultimately it will all come together on my website, which is pending, but it will be, like I said earlier, it will be ready in the next month. So I'll be sending out all the updates for that on all of my channels, and until then it's going to be business as usual.
Great. Well, I do read your posts most of the time on Facebook, and I really like them. And it's always so beautiful to see how engaged you are, and that you don't mind responding to questions or comments that, you know, some of them could be unpleasant, but most people there, I feel very, very interesting. They have, you know, interesting questions or points to bring in, and I love that you accept addition and challenges. So that's very important, because it is a conversation, and that's how we actually decide and use our free will to like make our own minds up.
Yeah, I mean,
so thank you.
Yeah, there's always going to be people who are going to project, and just people who are bitter, people who want to bring me down. And I have a certain tolerance level, but if someone's crossing the line, I have no qualms about removing them from my space. But on the whole, I'm willing to participate in open conversation, even with people I don't agree with, and reach, you said, a common understanding.
But then Telegram and your website, and we look forward to hearing
and my newsletter, and my newsletter as well.
Oh yes, I got it.
Subscribe to my newsletter already. Yeah. You type shiftingtimeline.com, there's a landing page with a subscription form, and you can subscribe to my newsletter now. And I've sent my first update out a couple of days ago, so I'm also going to, I'll be sending more of that maybe every few weeks or monthly. So until the website's up and running, that's another communication channel. So there's plenty of places if people are interested.
Yeah, I think connecting directly is most important. I think newsletters are the best because we just remove all the noise, and it's direct. So I did receive your first very nice letter, and I'm so glad to be there participating from the very start. And and we are doing the same here. So let's plan more things, and I thank you again, and have a great evening in England. You are in the area of Manchester, right? Manchester?
No. I'm in the kind of north region, but I'm not in Manchester.
Okay.
That's my address that I go by for my mailing list. But yeah, I'm in the north. Yeah. I lived in London for a while. There's a big split in England between it's very like divided. You've got this north-south kind of split, kind of
Really?
like, you know, you've got the red states, you've got the red and blue states in America, the Democrats,
yeah.
Republicans. So obviously in England, you have the Labour and the Conservative Party. So depending on where you are, it's going to be more liberal or conservative. But in my mind, it's not as split as it is in America. Like the red states tend to, at the moment, be more pro-freedom in terms of the masks and all the other stuff. I'm not necessarily bringing politics into it. I'm just saying generally that at the moment, those people are, you know, in the states of Florida, Texas, you've got more kind of pro-freedom perspective. In England, it's less diverse. There is a split, as I said, and the people are very different, but in terms of the level of brainwashing, it's all the same.
I know, it's pretty spread around. I mean, BBC is expert, so
yeah, basically the BBC govern everyone's minds. End of story. But there is a movement growing here, and despite the fact I'm not a big fan of London, there is some good protests happening there. There's another one tomorrow. I won't be there, but because I'm in the north at the moment, but I will be participating in a few of them and connecting with people in England first, and then hopefully when things are up and running again and we can find ways to dodge all of this crap with the airline nonsense, then it'd be nice to start connecting across overseas and going to Mexico and the States, and there's lots of interesting people I'd love to meet, and I'd love to visit places like where you are and Florida and Texas and
yes. I grew up in Brazil, so Brazil is also another region that we're going to, you know, be exploring as well. So yes, let's, you know, I'm very focused on staying put for the time being because of my health first and health first. And then when things get a little more balanced in the future, you know, we start connecting more personally. But meanwhile, we will be doing this and sending people to each other as we can and connecting as much as we can. Thank you so much, Sami. Sami.
We'll catch. Bless you.
Bless you. Have fun tonight.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye for now.